makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part.
Glenn Greenwald's shift to the right has been very obvious with regards to his US politics, but his Brazilian politics, where he resides, are a bit more confusing and complicated. Now, I have long suspected that at some point his move towards the right would also be obvious in Brazil. Of course, I don't think Greenwald will ever openly support Bolsonaro or some other far right figure, for the reasons that are pretty obvious. He doesn't do that in the U.S. either. He carefully constructs a narrative that is based around plausible deniability, so that he can appear apolitical or apartisan in that sense. So doing this in Brazil would be more complicated. And I think we're starting to see some evidence of how he's doing this. So this is a series of tweets he made earlier today. Apparently, he spends all day tweeting. An amazing job. I wish I had that job. And he responds to this comment. The only way to defend Sergio Moro lavajatismo. So Sergio Moro is one of the judges, the most well-known judge in the Lava scandal, which was the investigations over corruption or alleged corruption that resulted in numerous leftist politicians in Brazil ending up in jail, including Lula. Later, many years later, in 2019, revelations from The Intercept showed that, in fact, there was a huge amount of corruption in the investigation itself, and that eventually led to Lula being released. So Sergio Moro is now running for president in Brazil. The elections are next year. And, well, this comment is pretty good, I think, except the only way to defend Sergio Moro lavajatismo is to say you have to bend rules to get results, except that is literally the justification for corruption itself. And what results did Moro deliver? Look around, Bolsonaro's in charge, and children are starving across Brazil. So Greenwald says, the third way alternative which the Brazilian media and oligarchical sector is promoting to avoid a Lula-Bolsonaro runoff, Sergio Moro, is a corrupt judge who imprisoned Lula and is by far the greatest threat to Brazilian democracy and most dangerous authoritarian running. So this tweet in itself, I don't disagree with. But also you have to consider here that Glenn Greenwald has some very serious will have some very serious problems if Sergio Moro wins. Because Sergio Moro was appointed, so after becoming sort of a global celebrity, I must add, after the Lava Jato investigations, he was appointed as Justice and Public Security Minister by Bolsonaro. Now, this was like a very beefed up justice ministry in Brazil, so he was one of the most powerful people in the country. And then after the Intercept revelations came out, his star faded. He eventually quit. He's basically been disgraced. And I'm pretty sure that Sergio Moro is not going to forget that. So there is a massive threat to Glenn Greenwald's livelihood in Brazil if Sergio Moro would ever become president. Now, with Bolsonaro, obviously this also kind of partly tarnished Bolsonaro himself. After all, Sergio Moro was part of his cabinet. And Bolsonaro in the past has threatened Glenn Greenwald. So you would assume that Glenn doesn't have much love for Bolsonaro. But then the fact is, in the US, Glenn Greenwald has been coddling with people who, back in the Bush era, practically thought whistleblowers were traitors and needed to be executed. Pretty much every right-winger during the Bush administration and after thought that whistleblowers were a massive threat to U.S. national security, and being him one of the journalists who has assisted some of the most well-known whistleblowers like Edward Snowden, you would think that no one on the right would end up loving Glenn Greenwald ever, but yet here he is, being a simp for Tucker Carlson and essentially propagandizing in favor of every far-right candidate you see these days. So again, he does this with this carefully constructed narrative of plausible deniability. So he would need to do the same in Brazil. So how is this going to work? Well, he shows how in a bit. Yeah, I spent months, part of our investigative reporting, reading Moro's chats. No one is more arrogant or authoritarian, and by the way, quite dumb. And unlike Bolsonaro, who like Trump faced massive establishment resistance and has been weak, Moro will be fully empowered. So yeah, like I said, I don't think that Glenn Greenwald would ever support Sergio Moro as president. And God knows what he would do if he became president. I definitely think there would be a threat to his, potentially even to his life. You never know. But yeah. But here, this is really the one that shows you how the game Greenwald is going to play. There is a very competent, smart, innovative alternative to Lula versus Bolsonaro trip to the past. So first of all, he's framing this as like Lula, a trip to the past. Well, it was kind of a pretty damn good past. I mean, under Lula, Brazil reduced inequality massively, reduced poverty massively, the economy grew massively. Like Lula was one of the great success stories. It's a shame that Dilma made some rather egregious macroeconomic mistakes after the financial crisis that ended up with Brazil having a massive crisis of its own later, to say nothing of some undoubted corruption that did exist among the Workers' Party. Let's not. I mean, Lula did not deserve to go in jail, but yes, there was corruption. That's a fact. But here's the thing. Oh, so he continues. Ciro Gomes. But the establishment hates him because they can't control him. So the corporate media, after spending 4 years whining about democracy, embraces an authoritarian judge, Sergio Moro. So here's the thing. Ciro Gomes is pretty much like a centrist, sort of lefty-leaning, in rhetorically left-leaning centrist. In practice, I would suspect, like most centrists, he would govern as a kind of center-right government. Who would end up voting for Ciro Gomes? The Bolsonaro fans, the Brazilian right wing, would probably not shift their vote to Ciro, just because, like I said, he does have some rhetorical lefty leanings. But who would? Well, the left. So people who might support Lula would end up supporting Ciro Gomes. And every vote that doesn't go to Lula is a vote that ends up going to Bolsonaro instead. So here's a very illustrative response. So wait, so now not only are you dialing back on Bolsonaro, you're not rocking with your man Lula anymore? Damn, Glenn. I'm sorry you can't read. I'm a journalist. Lula was never my man. I always made clear the reporting we were doing wasn't pro-Lula. It was pro-due process and anti-abuse of prosecutorial power. I know some people can't understand that some journalists are driven by principles. Again, see, this is the plausible deniability in action. I'm apolitical. I don't support anyone, any particular party. I'm not a leftist. I'm not a right winger. You'll never know exactly what I believe in. I'm just a journalist. But this is propaganda to some extent. This is saying, hey, there's someone better than Lula, the man most likely to ensure that Bolsonaro does not win re-election. Now, why would you not want that? Why would you want Bolsonaro to even have the slight possibility of being re-elected? And the answer is if you don't, then Lula is your guy. Lula is the person that you should vote for. And again, this is someone who has a track record of successful government. But no, he thinks there is still a better alternative. That is Ciro Gomes. Untried, untested. We don't know exactly what his politics are likely to be once in office. But yeah, the game here is support Ciro Gomes, so that left-wingers in Brazil will gravitate towards Ciro and not vote for Lula, which in turn makes it more likely that Bolsonaro will win again. And does this remind you of any strategy? I don't know. Perhaps Jimmy Dore and these other dumb leftists in 2016, saying that they were going to vote for the Green Party or some other third party, so that Trump didn't, so that because they couldn't stand Hillary, and well, what did that end up resulting in? Well, Trump winning. or just make people as apathetic as possible so that they don't go out and vote. Which I do think this is also part of Glenn Greenwald's plan. Yeah, Lula and Bolsonaro, trip to the past. Yeah, just make people nihilists. That is the strategy of these people. Just make people into political nihilists so that they hate everything that these people paint as establishment, and which in the end results in the far right winning. So I think that's how the game is going to be played. I'm sure we'll see more of this evolution towards a pro Bolsonaro stance without ever being openly pro Bolsonaro. But I think that is how he's going to move in the next couple of months. And I think at least in like the next 3 to 6 months, it should be way, way, way more obvious. I think we're going to see much more critique of Lula from his part, and much more critique of the Workers' Party in general. So yeah, that is how he's going to play it. And again, he will never be formally accused of being a Bolsonaro promoter. All he's going to do is simply try and get people to not vote for Lula. That is the game. That is the plan. You heard it here first. So on that note, if you like this video, please like, please share. Most importantly, please subscribe. I will see you next time.